Welcome everybody. We've got over 100 participants online straight away and more probably joining as we go along. So welcome to the EOcafe and our first meeting of 2026. A happy and healthy new year to everyone. I hope it's started well and it will continue well. Today our guest is Simonetta Kelly, who is Director for Earth Observation at ESA. I think most people here will know Simonetta and will have heard her talking on other occasions. And today Simonetta will explain to us the outcomes and consequences of the recent ESA Ministerial held at the end of last year. As usual, just a reminder to everybody, please keep your microphones muted unless we specifically ask you to join the conversation, which will be in relation to a question if you have. And if you have a question, please put it into the chat so that we can then deal with it in the right time. And if you wish to leave your cameras on, we like to see you. We like to see people in the cafe, so please feel free to leave your cameras on. I know some people like to leave them off and carry on with doing other things, but if you want to leave it on, that's great. Just before we get going, I just wanted to say a few words. It's with some sadness that I learned earlier today, in fact, that one of Simonetta's predecessors has just died. Roger Bonnet was Director of Science for 18 years, from 1981 to 2001, 1983 to 2001. And of course at that time, science included what was then known as remote sensing, now is the Earth observation. Earth observation, I hope I'm right in saying, had its own directorate in about 1999, 2000. And I think Josie Ash was the first director of Earth observation. I met Roger on several occasions when we were building the ERS-1 and ENVISAT satellites, designing and building those at the end of the 80s and in the 90s. I was a young radar engineer working on those satellites. He left a great legacy in the ESA program, and Europe would not be a leader in this field without his efforts. So a thought goes out to him and of course his family. So welcome, Simonetta. You are quite familiar with the EOcafe. You've been with us 3 times before. This is your fourth visit, so I think you know your way around quite well. We last talked in February last year about the upcoming ministerial and the preparation for it. Now it's taken place, so today we can talk about the outcomes and the great success that it seems to have been from our perspective. So, I mean, just to kick things off, it was 12 months ago. How have the last 12 months been for you? What have been the sort of successes over the last 12 months?
Thanks, Jeff. Good afternoon to all. Very happy to be back at the EOcafe. Thank you to Ersk for the invitation. First word also on my side, a word of tribute and also a sadness for the loss of Professor Bonnet. He's been very, very instrumental at the agency for many years to promote Earth science and space science. And for me personally, he's been a person from which I've learned a lot in the job, and also how to interact with the science community, the industrial one, and really a big loss for all of us. Then you say what happened since February last year. A lot of things have happened, I must say, a lot of highlights, and maybe I'll focus on the general context in the EO domain, and then what really happened linked to ESA, to the Earth observation programs in terms of deliverables and also in terms of results of the ministerial. So on the European and wider geopolitical context side, I'd like to say what happened is that last year, basically, there were over 600 Earth observation satellites that were launched. And this means that the domain of Earth observation overall in the worldwide context is a very relevant one. It's a cornerstone, I would say, for global space activities. There was about 17 billion investment, public investment worldwide related to Earth observation. There was about 61% of private funding in 2024, so not just 25. And also the downstream sector, I mean, it was, of course, involving many actors, over 800 companies, 16,000 people, and 2.7 billion generated. And I think these data don't only give us a relevance of the sector overall worldwide, but also relevant of the share of the sector for Europe, with, I would say, more than a third of the global data processing market, which is somehow dominated by European actors. So it's not just the relevance of the continuous investment and spending that was done last year in terms of supporting that, I would say, industrial setup in Europe that is relevant, I think, in this context of ERSC and EOcafe, but also the achievement, the deliverables and the results. And if we look more focused to what ESA has achieved overall, we say that not only we have celebrated our 50 years anniversary, but we have delivered on over 20 missions in Earth observation. Mission that last year were both meteorological mission with the launch together with EUMETSAT of MTG Sounder in July, with on board also a mission for Copernicus, Sentinel-4 on atmosphere. Another meteorological mission in August with Ariane 6, METOP second generation with 2 instruments on board, IASI and METIMAGE from France and Germany, and another Copernicus instrument on board, Sentinel-5. Those 2 meteorological missions, of course, were not the only one last year, and we also launched an Explorer mission. This is Biomass, that is a P-band radar mission never flown before, looking at 3D scanning of tropical forests, the capacity of those forests to absorb CO2, and I would say a very strong relevance for the science community, but also for the community which is exploiting those data for doing really deliverables that support climate challenges. Then we launched Sentinel-1D. This is another Copernicus mission with the Commission in November, and actually not in November, we launched it earlier in September, and 1D was also with Ariane 6 and is the 4th radar mission for Copernicus, very relevant to grant continuity of those of you in the community of Earth that exploit those radar data to organize services and products. And then still in November, we launched 6B with NASA, with EUMETSAT, with CNES, an altimetry mission that is really the forefront of innovation technology on sea level altimetry. And again in November, we had 13 missions in November, so you can understand the challenge, but also the achievement. 2 new hydrogen SS hydrology mission as a new scout mission, validating a model of science mission, less costly to be developed fast in 3 years with industry. This was done with SSDL. And then during last year, we also launched quite a number of missions related to the InCubed program. InCubed is the program supporting commercial initiatives of companies. And we launched quite a few satellites in the context of the support ESA is providing to the national Italian Iride constellation and the Greek one. So you see over 20 satellites, but here we shouldn't just talk about the satellites. I think we should talk mostly about the relevance of the data and the mission outcome coming from those satellites that you and the community here can exploit. All those missions are working perfectly fine, and that I think is what is a big achievement in this context to be mentioned. Then we had another, I would say, successful event. It was the Living Planet Symposium. This was a moment, as we have every 3 years, it was in Vienna, where we met everybody that was representing industry, the science community, the international users of EO data. And we present at those occasions the results and the achievements of what we do with the projects, with the data, with the progress on the project implementation, but also plans for the future. And I must say, we never had such a successful, huge event with over 7,000 participants, over 2,000 students also, and all the partners there. And then I would say we had many achievements during the year in terms of products, in terms of services, in terms of application. Maybe I mentioned just a few, but we have had, of course, reinforcement of collaboration with some partners in the context of new space, like EFCA, or we have had signature of agreements with some UN environmental agencies in the context of Ramsar. We have supported inventory compilers with new results, with new monitoring products in support of greenhouse gases. We have worked in support of environment agencies with new products on coastal pollution, on land degradation. We have supported overall with products, but also with dedicated projects in the domain of fishery, blue energy, blue carbon, everything that was related to the blue economy. And we also attended, of course, the UN event in Nice with the Ocean Conference, and teamed up there again with all partners like Mercator Ocean and others. So that's just in a nutshell some of the things that were accomplished last year. But of course, we also had the inauguration of a new facility in Ezrin, which is called High Computing Capability. It's, I would say, a facility to have a technological development in terms of supporting innovation, in terms of supporting collaboration also with space industry on computational environment, on process in terms of data process, in terms of also complex simulation and accelerating application related to the use also of artificial intelligence. So that's more or less some examples of some highlights.
A busy and impressive year, and I mean, Living Planet is certainly becoming a major event in the calendar. I think I would endorse it. Was a very, very, very well attended and highly successful event. So let's move on now to the ministerial and looking forward a bit. And I'd like to start just by sort of taking the big picture, because the ESA EO program and the commitment to ESA from member states has resulted in a record high budget of 22.3 billion euro, with a full 15% dedicated to Earth observation, which is only just behind space transportation and science. So, I mean, this is a really good outcome. What does this mean for ESA in terms of EO strategy over the next 5 years plus?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yes, it was quite a historic moment. The ministerial prepared for about 2 years, as you know. It's quite a strong process of consolidation of proposals, which then turn out into the Director General proposal. This was a proposal for all the domains of ESA of about 22 billion. So we even collected more than what was proposed by our DG. In the specific domain of Earth observation, it's 3.5 billion euros. You see here in the chart how this results into the outcome of the ministerial, with a very strong, I would say, political support from member states, trust in the agency, but also, I would say, recognition of the fact that this is a very strategic domain for Europe overall, with also very high industrial potential. So this is it declines into programs, of course, that we presented to the ministerial, which go from a very challenging one that was FutureEO. It's a program where very relevant, I would say, is the preparation of new technologies, of innovation, the preparation of future operational missions, also meteorological and Copernicus, and then the development of missions. Some which are very relevant, I think, for this community are, for example, the Scout missions with the smaller, as I said, scientific missions that are embedded into that, but also a new concept there, the stepping stones, which are missions that will be prepared with industry to support something which is not just purely commercial vocation. This is what is done in InCubed, but missions, and not the big science mission, but missions that can have the objective to support, for example, implementation of dedicated climate legislation, where companies or companies that want to develop constellations or have good ideas in the domain, I don't know, of methane monitoring, greenhouse gases, or land monitoring, can have, you know, a starting point with the assessment of the potential in terms of future commercial market with ESA, but also demonstrate the value of their concept with this new stepping stone, I would say, concept that is part of FutureEO. And then what is very important, I think, in the context of ERSC is that FutureEO, it's about, you know, 1.8 billion subscription over the next 3 years, so never reached before, 95% of subscription. And it's a program that this time has balanced much more what is on the pure space component development of big mission and the component which is called Earth Action, which is the part of that program that is dedicated, really fully focused on valorization of the data, on demonstration of services, of products, research demo activities with Africa, collaboration on thematic application areas. And that part is a big chunk this time. It's over 450 million in the next 3 years inside FutureEO, which I think is particularly relevant to be looked at in the context of this community here. Then we had the continuity on digital twin of the Earth with oversubscription of the program, 42 million euros on the proposal of 40, very strategic to integrate everything that is in the predictive models, in the use of the data, also all what is digital, with a collaboration with Destiny on the DigiConnect side of the union, so a multiplier effect, I would say, of this R&D element of digital twins and continuity of activities. And then we have the continuity of Copernicus with the subscription to the program at 100%, so 850 million euros proposal with Sentinel-2 next generation and Sentinel-3 next generation optical. And then a small part related to ground segment, which is probably also very relevant here. And then InCubed with the Nova subscribed program at 152%, co-funding scheme supporting commercial endeavors of companies. And this is the traditional Earth observation program package, which was extremely well subscribed. But then, as we spoke already last February, we were responding in ESA to some new challenges, the evolving geopolitical context, the request of the Commission to support with space data and infrastructure the challenges they have on security, resilience, and defense. And my DG initiated the ambition in April to have a new program proposal on the table, a dedicated one on resilience and security, which is called ESA, which is then also complemented by 2 additional programmatic lines in ESA, the LEO PNT on the navigation side, which is managed by my colleague Javi Benedicto, and the secure connectivity one, which is managed by Laurent Jaffard. So in that context of an ambition to reinforce ESA role on security and resilience, which was a new role provided politically to ESA at the Ministerial, the program proposal on ESA was constructed in a very delicate, I would say, setup with the preparatory element of that proposal called the ERS Element 1 to prepare for a future leading initiative of the Commission, EOGS, in the next MFF. We will start new ITTs in that context very soon. I can comment on that in a minute. And also some cluster initiative on the Element 2, aggregating ambition of national defense authorities of various member states like Switzerland or Spain to really work together and organize infrastructure in support of security and defense. That program didn't put in danger the traditional EO programs, which was a challenge and a risk we had before the Ministerial. Also, thank you to the strong support I think we had from ERSC. And here I want to really say a big thank you to you as a community. I think industry overall played a very strong support in the lobbying towards all decision makers, all stakeholders is showing the relevance of EO overall, but in your area also showing the relevance of the service of the value-added sector. And I must say, this helped a lot, not to put or jeopardize the new attractive domain of security only, what is been the traditional very success story of what we do in terms of environmental climate applications it was a clear challenge before the ministerial, and it was achieved with a good balance of funding, a good balance of content in terms of the activities proposed and presented and supported.
I guess a number of the people on the call will have been able to hear your presentation last week during the industry
Yes,
day. But
that is probably, yes, Jeff, useful for you to distribute to the community.
yeah, so we have the slides and we will distribute those to people on the call afterwards, which goes into more detail of the program and breaks down some of the elements. So we'll make sure that's available. In the meantime, I
Yeah,
guess.
those slides can help to look at two things for the industry. I think on one side to see when we have some key
Yeah.
milestones, like for digital twin, there is a key industry day early February planned, so that they can either attend those events. There are clear ITT process and calendars mentioned related to the various activities I just said here. For example, we will start architecture studies on ERS element 1 after the February PBO. We plan to issue, calls related to Copernicus, and you have all the detailed planning for that, which can help a lot industry here to understand what and when they should keep an eye.
And I think you were also working on developing the FutureEO program and Copernicus. So is there more there that you can say about the shape of the FutureEO and Copernicus elements?
Yes, so FutureEO will have some core big elements on the space segment development. One is NGGM, it's a mission on gravity on ocean circulation, and it's called an opportunity mission. We'll do phase B2 CD, and we start that in Q2. We will also start the implementation of a mission on cloud profiles, which is called Wyvern. But what is interesting, I think, more here for this audience is the Scout mission, the cycles of the next two Scout missions, which are smaller missions for medium industry, are very relevant probably, and the ITTs will be done in Q3 this year. And then we have the stepping stone. As I said, we'll have an industry day on stepping stone in March in ESTEC. And really, really important is the Earth Action. So the Earth Action is a whole new element, the third element, a big one in the program, which integrates previous activities which were, for example, climate variables in the climate space context, GDA, so Global Development Assistance activities with the banks, where very many of your companies here present have been active in the past. And the Earth Action is a way to somehow rationalize everything we do in terms of demonstration of products, services, and the relevance of EO for society, for the supporting the climate, the sustainable development goals. And it's about over 400 million, and it covers everything that is related to environmental policies, everything that is related, for example, to our collaboration with DigiClima, where we do plan additional demo products on greenhouse gases, land, and together with DigiClima, where we look at commercial use of geospace solutions, cooperation and partnership for the economic operator, with the view also to have a commercial reach and a commercial perspective for the European industry actors. And so I think this is interesting because you will see that we will work on different domains in terms of developing application. It can be production processes to ensure climate resilience, like steel production, chemical manufacturing. It can be advanced data processing methods, including AI. It can be the domain of information supply chain, best practices for the exploitation and support to market sectors, energy or other sectors. And all of this will be part of what we will do in terms of Earth Action. And there we really need to go the next step. There are some countries who have invested quite a lot in FutureEO. We need to look for companies who will bid. We need to look for good application and services. We need to look for companies that are good at doing innovative data fusion, analytic tools, visualization tools. So I think there is a huge potential for this community in that context of FutureEO, and particularly of EarthTouch.
Maybe we can dig a bit deeper into that, but just before we do, I'm not sure what's happened. Something strange has happened with my computer. I cannot see the chat, I cannot see the participants, I can only see the videos, and I can hear perfectly well, so I can carry on. But I shan't be able, unless something happens, I shan't be able to moderate on the questions or the chat. So either Emmanuel or Tanya, perhaps you can help me there. I don't know what's happened. I don't want to do too much in case it just cuts the connection completely. So I do apologise. So let's dig a little bit further into Earth Action, because I think that's the question of resilience. I'm not quite sure how resilience and Earth Action fit together,
Yes.
and how will companies sort of get involved in these. There'll be calls,
Okay.
progressive calls, or the interactions that you're looking for, consultations, advice. Tell us a bit more about how that will work.
So just to tell you, we have had quite a lot of activities in the past in FutureEO related to R&D and to resilience and security, civil security mainly. And the plan is to continue to have those activities related to R&D and resilience and security organized through FutureEO with the stakeholders, but really with a strong R&D connotation. And anyway, it's quite limited budgets inside the huge FutureEO. I'm thinking max 10 million. So it gives you the feeling we will continue what has been done until now. My colleague Gordon Campbell is the one who has managed those things with the EMSA, with partners like Frontex. That will continue, but as a very strong connotation of R&D. Okay, and then it's not going to be done the same inside the ESA, which is a program that has the value to be a preparatory one for an operational one and an operational setup in the context of the OGS. So we keep the split of roles very clear between what we try to do in terms of what we call proof of concept inside the FutureEO, inside the element one of ERSEO, and there is a component of that. The first proof of concept is already, funded with about 15 million euros. We plan to do 4 in the end if we get the full subscription 2-year SEO and one which reopens in February and will close in November. We are discussing iterating for that part, which is a demo of service with SATSEN, not to overlap with what SATSEN has been doing and is doing on the 2, I would say, service demonstration application of EOGS. We had a meeting today with them to really consolidate a joint plan that makes sense. But what is done in FutureEO still on resilience and security has a very strong R&D connotation, not much R&D inside the current plans for ERSEO. And we really discussed this also earlier this week with member states. We try to make sure this is very, very clear also for the external world, not just for us who have conceived the proposal.
Okay, so I think you have some meetings coming up to address some of those points. If I disappear, somebody please take over. I'll try to rejoin, but I'm a bit blind at the moment. Simonetta, please carry on.
There's another element maybe interesting on Earth Action. As you mentioned, Earth Action, we plan to have a dedicated industry day in Germany. Germany, as you know, is a big contributor to EO programs and FutureEO in particular. And we are aiming at trying to make a special effort, not only in Germany, but we start with Germany as the first one in March, to really engage industry on the value-added sector, engage it more, because your community is already very active. Also find new stakeholders and make sure that this is going to be a very success story of a mandate that we got, by the way, 3 years ago. Valorize the data that you have, organize a support also with programs that have a major innovation R&D connotation, science one, into an operational commercial potential stream for our companies. That's what we will further try to do. And part of Earth Action is also what we do with the World Bank, what we do in Africa. So we'll try also through demo products to help European companies to get into, potentially a new market in regions where they can operate. And I think this is an interesting element of Earth Action for all this sector here, and quite an interesting potential to follow up from what we do in terms of implementation.
Okay. Reminder to people, if you have questions, put them into the chat. I think my chat screen has frozen. So again, I'm not sure that I shall see any. Tanya, are there any?
There was, but it disappeared. So I imagine Simonetta answered that person's question already. I think it was indeed about the difference. Yes, he just confirmed, the person just confirmed in the chat. So yeah, anyone else put them, and Jeff, I'll let you know. But we can hear you perfectly, so no worries.
Yeah, no, it's strange. It's something to do with the Zoom screen that's frozen. I can open other windows and manipulate and see my mouse moving and everything else, but in the Zoom screen I can't. Okay. What about InCubed, Simonetta? Because that's been quite a successful program.
InCubed has been very successful, and not only we have 2 new member states into InCubed. France joined the program, but also Canada has joined the program. By the way, Canada has increased dramatically its contribution, and it's not the only one, but very strongly to ESA overall and to EO. So we'll look into quite some opportunities with the Canadian industry. We had yesterday bilateral with the Canadian Space Agency to see how to best organize an interaction with the Canadian context to make sure that they will, bid, get return on what they need to do, and also really a plan to engage into the process of contractual process Canadian company. But what is interesting there is that InCubed shows its attractiveness in terms of a program that is co-funded, but a program that has successfully supported the creation of new startup in the domain of upstream. There I think of Constellaire, I think really of some of the examples, and we have many there, of companies that have built Aurora Tech or others, a competence, a capacity, and thank you to this program that has increased their TRL capacity, that has proven to be successful in terms of ESA, providing support as expertise, opening doors in terms of potential commercial perspective, helping to get venture capital, and really organizing the work to support new startups on the space segment. But also InCubed has been very successful, I would say, as a program that has developed into the value-added sector, again, with the expertise and again with the different setups in the countries. We have, calls in the UK that were not organized the same as in Spain, but overall, everybody has benefited from this InCubed scheme, really creating business for companies. And there I can mention another one. Open Cosmos was started with InCubed, and they gained contracts thank you to what they've acquired in terms of expertise also with this. And this is not the only example. I think InCubed is really a valuable scheme to support companies in increasing their competence and looking at commercial perspective. And this was demonstrated at the Ministerial because it's a program that is scalable. So we didn't have a huge envelope, but it got 152% to subscription. And potentially anybody who's interested can additionally subscribe in the coming period. And it's really an effort where we also have worked. There is someone with a question, maybe. I see Open Cosmos reacts, and you're not the only example, but I mentioned you because you are one example. And I think it's important to see how there we really work in synergy with my colleague in industrial policy, because we use horizontal mechanisms that ESA sets up in terms of speeding up contracts, okay? So I think we got where we wanted in terms of speeding up the process to sign contracts faster. And we could be even better, and we're looking how to be better. I must admit, sometimes companies complain in the contractual setup related to supporting commercial initiatives. We also have managed to make over 70 arrangements ESA-wide, which the EO sector is benefiting with venture capitals. We're also trying not just to provide our expertise, but try to advise companies when they want to team up with other companies complementary to their expertise in other countries. This is really part of the core of the job that ESA has to do. And we try to do through InCubed, also through the implementation of other programmatic lines that we manage.
Just before opening it up, a bit of a left field question, maybe, but I just wondered if there was any changes in relation to FireSat, if there's discussions with the Canadians.
No, I mean, for the Canadians, I speak mostly on domains which are related directly to EO. So we talk RadarSat perspective, we talk GSGSat, we talk application in the domain of the Arctic, we talk ground segment and operation with the stations they have. You know, that's the topics that we talk about, not really what you mentioned, because it's not really directly in my remit, but that's how it is at present in discussion.
I just wondered with some of the recent statements whether FireSat was likely to be changing configuration in some way. I think that's of interest to our members. I think
Jeff, we have a question.
Wolfgang, yeah?
Yes, Wolfhard. Yes, you can see the chat. It's about, I think, the overlap between national agencies and national capacities and the ERS-EO. But if you want to take the question now, maybe we can ask Wolfhard to unmute himself since you can't see the chat.
Let's take it now. I can just sort of see part of it, so I can't see the whole question.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about the inconvenience on my side. My camera is no longer detected by Zoom, so I'm staying in the dark here.
Everybody's having technical problems.
Anyway, Simonetta,
yeah.
Looking at at ERS being a true dual use program, and then drifting into or supporting EOGS in the end, which clearly targets defense and security topics and applications. There's, of course, we have the European level in defense and security, but then we also have national defense and security research and also applications in national programs, looking also towards virtual constellation options, for instance, with national missions that are targeted for defense and security or dual use like in Canada. How do you see the coordination being accomplished between national defense not agencies, ministries, but then also agencies, which are, should I say, kind of a breed of them of their own, and then ESA and the EU Commission. How do you see this coordinated? And my second question, of course, then targets the acceptance. In the past, it's been pretty difficult to launch any kind of dual use or supply of civilian satellite data or missions. Canada is one of the exceptions where dual use was the topic from the beginning. But how can we increase the acceptance on the defense side, on defense ministries? What's your take on this?
So very good questions, and not easy one, but just to tell you, on the national defense side and coordination. Coordination with the Commission is very close. I have, and my team as well, a very close interaction with DEFIS to make sure that what we do in ERSEO is really instrumental to build for EOGS, where there is currently a proposal in the MFF for ESA to be the space architect lead, as we did for Copernicus and part of the ground segment in EOGS. So we have a very close coordination mechanism, ESA Commission. That's the first thing. With member states, how do we organize that? In a variety of ways. On one side, we are the ones getting the requirements from the Commission, and also the Commission is coordinating somehow some requirements with member states. In fact, that's why the process of collecting requirements for ERS-EO has been a little bit delayed, because we have to wait for a formal meeting of Council happening end of January. So we have draft requirements for the ESA, which should come from the EU towards ESA. And this process of coordination with defense authorities, one side is happening via the SATSEN collaboration that's tasked at the level of Council. The other side, there is a formal process in place between Commission and Member States to consolidate those requirements. So that's on the side of Member States. On the practical side of the program implementation, what we are trying to do is, you know, my directorate is managing in support of some Member States, national development of national EO infrastructure. And there I think IRIDE for Italy, I think Camila for Poland, I think Atlantic Constellation for Spain, and I think the Greek constellation. And there, what I've organized in the setup internally to make sure there is full synergy and rationalization of efforts and potential really sustainability perspective of those national assets, I've organized that the team that does that is the same team with the same, you know, type of setup and a very close coordination among those national projects which I'm running and the ones that will go into ESA. Last but not least, this is not enough, as you can imagine, because there are lots of national assets which are not done via ESA and which need to be in the system in terms of future evolution of the architecture. And there we have had quite a number of interaction with national defense authorities, with my DG and my colleagues. And what we understood is that an essential element of that success must be what we call pooling and sharing, which means we have to guarantee the interaction and the technical interoperability of the national assets existing and the ones that we are developing. And there is a very strong dedicated component inside element 2 of your ESA. It's called pooling and sharing is the federation element. And we have 30 million, which is more than what we have actually initially asked, which was 25 million in that element, to do that technical interoperability of national assets and European ones. And that's more or less what I can say at this stage, but still at governance level, we still have some challenges, how to best coordinate national infrastructure assets, and also the willingness from defense to really inject the requirements into the system and look at the longer term, I would say, ideal governance setup, which involves space entities, the traditional space agencies, but also somehow resilience and security actors in a stronger way and defense actors. So it's not the end of the story, but certainly there is a very strong already effort in place to do what you just actually said.
That sounds,
Thank you very much, Simonetta.
Sounds very positive. I can just see a tag that tells me there's another question. And I'm told it's come from from Space for Climate UK. Is that correct? So please take the floor.
Hi, Simonetta. Thank you so much for your information and talk. We represent a climate community in the UK of 92 organizations across the value chain of satellite data for climate applications. We have heard about the Earth Action Pillar from the UK Space Agency, and we're very keen to understand if there's going to be any implementation plan to understand how communities in the sector, SMEs, industry can start, planning towards efforts and resources and essentially to action against it. Will there be any pathways, any plans?
Yeah. So thank you. First of all, there has been presented to member states at an informal meeting this week a strategic implementation plan dedicated to that Earth action. This will become visible formally at program board in February, and it includes the thematic areas that we will work on. And so it gives you already an indication of top priority areas. And you are very active on climate. The UK community has been extremely strong and will continue, hopefully, to be strong on that specific climate-related variable development, which are part of that strategic plan. There will be, on top of the strategic implementation plan of Earth Action, an implementation plan, a dedicated one, looking at really what are the programmatic milestones and the moments when we issue the ITT, how we spend the money, which year, when. And we plan also in the UK to have meetings at Harwell, which is for us the focal point in the UK with the climate team that I have there, to inform the community of the potential and really engage them and continuously engage them, because there's quite some potential, of course, on the UK side as well as other countries in that domain, and specifically a UK, I would say, clear priority on the climate agenda related to Earth Action implementation.
Thank you so much. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. In terms of SMEs and startups, I mean, this has been something which has been very important over the last few years. Are there new specific measures which will help new companies, startups or growth companies to develop?
I think rather than completely new measures, I would say we are continuing InCubed and Success Program. We're continuing access to venture capital. We are trying to be faster on the contractual setup. And the other thing we will do is we have new schemes. And this new scheme I mentioned, for example, is the stepping stone. So we have to use and exploit all relevant mechanisms, I think, if this is the message for the startups and the SMEs. Of course, we work strenuously at ESA to make sure that there are also sometimes shares of contractual setup when we do the procurement devoted to SMEs. It was 25% on some programs like Copernicus in the past. So we always carefully look at that provision. I normally don't do this alone as a director. We try to do this collectively as ESA. So it's very important that your community continues to defend the relevance of supporting SMEs. You're quite active in that domain, I must say, because we have to also, with the risk of having big aggregation of industrialists like with Bromo, we want to really preserve the competition setup in Europe. It's very healthy for ESA, and we want to support SMEs. And I think this is part of our objective with all ways. And I think the dialogue is quite open. With the SME Association, there's a good dialogue, and I think also good ideas that might come in this time of initial implementation of new program action of the Ministerial is a good time. If there are good ideas to put it on the table, I can be sometimes your spokesperson if there are good ideas, but also other directors, and I would offer that if, because it's a time of change in ESA. It's also a time of change in terms of speed and efficiency. We have to implement more money with more or less not so many more people, just to give you an idea. The budgets are gone up, and we have to be more efficient. We will probably think of aggregating some contractual tender procurement. We will probably think also of using more service contract to support the work we need to do, not on core activities, because so there, I think also opportunities in that context of an increased overall efficiency of implementing the ESA programs that we have to look at.
Okay. Are there any more questions, Tanya? No? Okay. So please don't be shy. Please put your questions into the chat. I'm a little bit handicapped in seeing them, but that doesn't mean to say that you...
I don't see any, so totally in the blind, but it's fine.
Yeah, should be fine.
We have also maybe a last point on the support to startups. We have a commercialization workshop planned in Spain. If I recall correctly, it's in May. So that's another good opportunity you should use to attend and follow what's going on there. It's a follow-up of what we did in Germany last year, and it was very useful for some of those companies that are here to understand how to better participate to ESA program.
Yeah, and of course you can count on us to help communicate and support that. That's no doubt. What do you see as being the sort of success factors in terms of getting data and getting solutions out there? What are your measures you're thinking of, or you've talked with member states?
Success factors, sorry, of what?
Of Well, mainly I'm thinking of downstream. I'm thinking of the data supply. I'm thinking of the value-added products and services that you've talked about under resilience and Earth Action. What will be the measure of success? What are the KPIs that the member states are looking for? Sort of making sure that this is out there, this is reaching users.
I think the member states, they look, number one KPI is their geo return. The number two KPI is, of course, success stories in terms of translating R&D demo and services into commercial streams. And number three, it's certainly an element of complementarity of non-traditional technologies coming from the space sector, like the digital ones. How are they embedded now into that domain? And that's really a test area where we are working hard. And then there could be many more, and there are many more, but these are some elements of results which we are certainly looked at. And I think also the interaction that ERSC can play in this context of interfacing with the industry regarding our future plans in this context, appropriate communication on that, supporting the implementation of our future strategies, but not just in Earth Action, can be extremely helpful, I think, there. So you can have quite a publicity role into, and also a narrative support role into that. I think that's very useful. I see there are quite a few questions in the chat, and now I saw some. One is on the Industry Day, is from 2 to 2nd of February in Esrin on DTE, if that was the question that I saw on the chat.
Yes.
What else?
Thank you for taking those. Tanya's trying to keep me updated through other channels, but if you can just pick up those questions. Tanya?
Yeah, there's another one from Wolfhard earlier, and one that's just come in as well. I think they're both related to the discussions on SME. So if you want, I can maybe go to the final one, which is from Daniel Teka about InCubed and innovation or research with African research universities. So maybe Daniel wants to come in and ask the question. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very interesting presentation. I am Daniel from McKenna University. Currently, we are working with EUMETSAT reception from the Copernicus data. And one of the challenges specifically in our case is we don't have the system where private sectors will really enact in the use of Earth observation data. Specifically, it's from the government side, but there are some initiatives where incubation centers in research sectors, especially in universities, enrolling students can really be supported to really utilize Earth observation data for environmental monitoring, especially in our case, for natural resource management. So from that perspective, is there a way that InCubed can support these kinds of initiatives? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I think there are two elements really relevant here, which is not directly related to InCubed at this stage, but to our programs. First of all, inside FutureEO, there is what we call EO Africa, EO for Africa. That is activities that we run in ESA through Esrin with a team which is doing training, which is doing demo, which is doing thematic application projects, and that will continue with the new phase of implementation of FutureEO. And then there is a second element, which I think is interesting for you. We have today delegated funds from DG IMPA, which is the Directorate General of the Commission for the International Relations on Africa. And there, the activities have started, and we basically have 3 lines of action, and those lines of action include one dedicated line of action for the type of thing that you mentioned, so that the industrial promotion of incubation activities in Africa. So you have two mechanisms today in ESA programs which exist through the impact calls for Africa, which are mainly supporting valorization of Copernicus data and digital infrastructure, but with one of the three lines of activities really with the scope to support what is done in terms of startups creation in Africa. And the other one is the EO for Africa. Both elements are managed by the same teams in my directorate at ESWIN. I can direct you to those. And one is more with the R&D connotation. The other one is more, I would say, with this need to support an industrial setup as well, which is probably relevant for what you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle, for joining us. Wolfhard was asking about specific activities, particularly in relation to resilience and to enable SMEs to participate. Are there foreseen any special measures there?
Frankly, not that I know yet, but you have been as a community strenuously defending a clear role for your sector in the building up of the ESA program. And this is also ambition. And certainly if you look, for example, at the node component, so the XCSS element, there's a huge potential for companies of this remit here, huge. And already you were active with some key actors in CSS. Now it's the nodes, it's inside the RSEO. It's an element that has been strongly oversubscribed with 112 million euros, so big potential there. And I'm sure also on the proof of concept, so what we call the demonstration of the application project, the one I mentioned with SATSEN, there's a strong potential for your companies as well. So I see that in spite of not having a precise percentage ratio written yet in the draft ITT, which I've seen, I haven't yet seen the final ones because they're not out yet, but there is certainly a very strong potential and role that you can have in that implementation of that program.
Okay, excellent. So there's a question about information on release of ITTs. You can probably see the question. I can't. I can only see the relay version.
If not, basically, Simonetta, Daniela from Planet Tech is asking if at the ESA Info Day, will there be information on the future ITTs planned for the next 3 years? Will that be presented?
So the information that you're asking, Daniela, was really the one we provided all the ESA directors last week at the ESA Industry Day. And what Jeff, I think, is planning to do is to distribute all the slides that I've presented there, which give you some very clear indication of all the plans ITT at least in this first cycle of 2026, related to all the relevant program elements, to FutureEO, InCubed, Copernicus, and everything. So look at those slides and you have all the relevant plans for not the next 3 years, but at least the first year and a half, you have it there.
Yeah, and also for discussions and interactions on that matter. Okay, is there any other question that we... So we're just at 5 o'clock, so I guess we should wind down in any case. Simena, thank you very much again for joining us again. It's obviously a great deal of interest in the program and what's going on, where it's going. So thank you for sharing that with us, and obviously we'll discuss further in the future.
Yeah, thank you to you, Jeff, to Tanya and Emmanuel for that, and all the participants. And I hope I've responded. Otherwise, if I haven't, just contact me or my colleagues and we'll try to help. Thanks.
Yeah. We'll be in touch, and of course, obviously talking with your colleagues. Next EOcafe is in 2 weeks' time, 5th of February. Normal time, normal place. And we'll be getting an insight into the priorities of the Cyprus presidency and how they see things developing under their chairmanship. So thanks everyone for joining us with it. Please join us again in 2 weeks' time, and thank you again to Simonetta for your contribution. I think as usual, if anyone wishes to stay online and to exchange, they're very welcome to. I'm handicapped in that I can't open up microphones for you or call you in, so you'll have to be proactive. But I can hear you and I can speak to you, so that at least is something.